So in our ePub, we're going to have to consider our front matter and how it displays when our ePub opens up. Traditionally, there is a front cover embedded into the actual document. Then we would go to our half page, our title page, and then our copyright page. Okay, and then even in my document, I have my front matter separated out. So my table of contents is in another document, and then I have my dedication after that. Okay, but let's go in and first we would add our cover page into our document. So what I want to do, because our pages, we don't need to worry about left and right. I have this blank page in here. I'm just going to move my blank page up to page 1, and this is going to be my front cover. Okay, just took a couple seconds to do that. So now I have this blank page here, and I'm just going to add in my cover art. Okay, just using the rectangle frame tool. Okay. I'm actually just going to go and select that, and then I'm going to add a box around my page. We don't need bleeds on this because it's an ePub. I'm going to place in my cover art. Okay, and then I'm just going to resize it. Okay, so now my cover artwork is in my actual front matter. Okay, we're gonna go and make sure that our pages read the way we want them to. Okay, if I were to just export this ePub as is without adding any breaks or anything like that in it, my half title would run into my title and it would run into my copyright page. Okay, so I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna make sure that I change my object export options. Okay, for this ePub type, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select front matter for each page in this document, and it just pretty much tells the ePub where this content will go. It also dictates kind of what comes after it as well. So I just want everything in this document and in all the other front matter documents to be the type to be front matter. Okay. As well as selecting this, remember we're on the cover page here, we're going to go to custom layout. And remember from our first ePub, we want this page to sit on its own page. So we want to tell it to add a page break after the image. This way it'll push all the content off to the next page. And done. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for our text. So we're going to right click, and then we're going to go to Object Export Options. Okay. I'm going to choose front matter for this one as well. Custom layout, insert page break after image. Okay, and done. Again, I am repeating this for each page. Object export options. Front matter. Okay. custom layout, and I'm not changing any of the options in here. I'm actually just going to leave them as is. And I'm going to insert the page break and after my image. And I'm going to keep the size set to default. And done. Okay. And last page for this document, I am doing my copyright page. So object export options, again, front matter, custom layout, insert page break after image. Okay, done. I'm not going to do this for the table of contents because it's in its own document. And we've already set that up. So I'm going to go into my dedication. Again, object export options. And I'm going to change that to front matter. Again, this one's in its own document, so I'm going to put insert page break after image, but it probably isn't necessary. So we're going to go in and see. Okay. Another thing I know I'm going to have issues with is this little glyph here. Okay. When we export our ePubs, we can embed typefaces into it, and it's one of the default settings to actually embed fonts, but this one will not embed. Okay, so the way to get around that, if I want to keep this, is I have to create outlines for it. Now, the issue when I create outlines for this is that it is no longer going to be, it's going to be an image. It will be vector, but I cannot change the color of it. And it will be an object. Okay. It's also, oops. When I add this, again, because it's going to be an object, so I just copied and pasted it into a new text frame. I'm going to create outlines for it by pressing Command, Shift, and O. Okay, I'm going to anchor this, but we don't have a lot of control over where it's going to go when it gets into the ePub. So if you remember from one of the first classes that we had, we're going to anchor images, and to do that, we do it by selecting this blue box, and it will actually be there for your images too if you have an actual image. I'm going to drag this, so I'm going to click on this blue box and I'm going to drag it just to sit in front of my dedication. One way to see where your anchors are sitting is in your story editor. Okay, I actually have to be in the text. Okay, so I can see where my anchor actually sits. If I wanted to, I could move my anchor. Can add spaces. Okay, I'm going to keep it like this for now. And we'll see what happens when we convert it to an ePub. Okay, so I've gone through, I've gone through my front matter. We've created separate pages for all of these guys. Okay, so all of our text flows on to the next page and they're not all stuck together. We have gone to, again, the dedication. We've anchored an image. Now let's go through and see what happens in our front matter to that dedication. Okay, so you'll see that when I go through my ePub, it has my cover, and then next it has my half title, and then my title page, my copyright page, my table of contents, and then it has my dedication. And I can see that my glyph is up at the top. I can go through and I can change where that actually sits. By changing the alignment. We'll go back in and do that. Okay, and the size doesn't change on that either. So we can go through and for this one, we can change our object export options. We can rasterize content. I'm going to make sure that I change this to a PNG so that it has a transparent background. I'm also going to go to custom layout, and I want this to sit on the right hand side. So I'm going to select the right hand side. I don't need to insert a page break because I want it to stay on the same page. I'm going to change this so that it's relative to the text size. So when we increase or decrease the text, this should change with it. Okay. Export book to ePub. Do this again, reflowable ePub, save, replace. I'm going to go in and decrease the text because I increased it so much the last time. Okay, and so you'll see now that my glyph over here increases, again, according to the type size. So whenever I increase my type size, that glyph increases as well. I'm going to change my background, and so you'll note that the glyph doesn't actually change colors, so it will be hard to see on the black and the gray background, but it does have a transparent background to the glyph. So we're going to leave it like it is right now. And we're actually going to go through and do the same thing to the glyphs on the copyright page and the title page, okay? So if you guys have something similar, you can go ahead and make those changes. If you have images in your front pages, you can go ahead and anchor those. I'm going to delete these just to clean up everything. Okay, so I'll go back into my front matter. Again, I'm gonna cut that glyph out, create a new text box, create outlines by pressing Command Shift and O. I'm gonna place my glyph. And again, we're gonna have to go in and see where it ends up sitting, because it will change as your text is increased and decreased. So again, I'm gonna anchor my image. Remember, if you have text or anything that needs to stay together, you need to anchor those two objects together. So again, I'm anchoring my glyph to this text, so when I export it, it stays in the same place and they flow together. They travel together. Okay, so go back in and just change my object export options. We did rasterize content. And again, I'm just going to change that to a PNG. Custom layout, I know I want them to stay again on the right hand side, so I'm going to make sure that's selected, and I'm going to change my size to relative to text size. Done. While we're in here, we're going to go in and we're going to change this guy over here as well. Again, created outlines. I'm going to anchor the text. And remember to, if you anchor anything, just to go back in and just check where it actually sits. So to be able to bring up the edit in story editor, so it is Command Y, the keyboard shortcut, and it's under layout, but to make sure that you can access it, you actually have to have your text tool inserted into a text frame. So Command Y brings up my story editor, and again, I can see where my anchor point is, and I could go in and I could move it. Okay, and we're going to go back up and we're going to check our other page. So again, Command Y to bring up the story editor again. Okay, and I'm just going to add a space in there. Okay, and then I can just exit out of the story editor. Okay, let's export to ePub again. You're going to be going through and you're going to be exporting this project quite a bit, okay, just to see, just to test how things work in your document. Also, when you test your document, remember to test it at different sizes, okay, so you just like increase or decrease your screen or the window size, and then you can just increase and decrease your type.